Hi there. Just a quick disclaimer, legal disclaimer. I'm no way associated with Mob Entertainment or their franchise, Poppy Playtime. I'm just a fan of the franchise, and I want to, see it or just want to talk about it. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just a fan. Anyway, another quick disclaimer is a bit of viewer discretion. Discretion? Yeah, discretion is advised as I will be talking a bit about child abuse, uh, you know, death, because it is a horror franchise, and a bit more darker topics in this. And some of the things in this are of my own opinion, in the tier list section, that is. And yeah, that's enough of the disclaimer. And in terms of the tier list, what I'm going to be basing on is the toys themselves, how they fit in the actual story, and how well it works with horror or like kind of horror writing area. That's kind of the three main topics I'm going to be doing, and yeah, that's about it. Uh, I'll hand it off to the tier list guy. It's me. I'm the guy. Alright, this is the tier list, and the criteria that I'm currently doing is based off of like the narrative importance, their design, how they work in certain areas of the horror, but also like I will be taking into consideration some non-official things like character animation, like independent animations. You might have seen like certain smiling critters or smiling, no, yeah, smiling critters things on YouTube here and there. I will also be taking that into consideration because, I mean, come on, it's the guys, you know. Plus, I gotta support a local independent animation, so let's begin. And where a good place to start than the main guy himself, Elliot Ludwig. Ludwig, Elliot Ludwig, the guy that started the entire toy company, and the motherfucker that cannot just accept a loss. So it's kind of like a weird place to put him because in terms of narrative, yeah, he started everything that eventually led down to so many people dying, so many children getting hurt, to the point where, yeah, he just kind of did all of this, maybe out of the goodness of his heart at some point, but there is a bit of evidence that he was still continuing on certain experiments even after his daughter was revived into Poppy. We can see that, I believe, in Chapter 5. I can't remember if it was like during the catnap thing where they found his body, which implies that they were still doing some experiments on children during when the prototype and Theo, later Catnap, were trying to leave. And if that is, it just brings out a demon inside someone that we thought was like a very good person. But until we can get more, I guess, evidence, I think I'm just going to put him in A tier because obviously the game hasn't ended yet, but yeah, he is a very influential character in the narrative, and yeah. Now, let's go on to the second generation, aka his daughter Poppy. Now, I mean, come on, it's named Poppy Playtime, so she's going to be important. We can see her influence kind of a bit everywhere in the entire thing, and yeah, it's just, she's one of the most important characters. I mean, she's an S tier because, yeah, she just kind of helps the player, which we will get to. And some people do hate her for, like, not letting us leave the factory, which I do kind of get, but I do understand her side of it. I mean, with her kind of little rebellion against the prototype, her little whole thing trying to save the orphans that may or may not be still alive, that's kind of up in the air. It is still a bit iffy, so yeah. But I do think she's one of the best characters written, with her being like kind of mentally in this kind of place where her father kind of just did all of these pretty bad things. It's just, she is very well written when you think about it in kind of a more deeper thing. And I think she gets a lot of hate that she doesn't really deserve. And yeah. Alright, let's do some more meh characters to kind of add some spice to this. Let's start with Braun. I mean, I don't really feel that much for him. He doesn't really have much narrative importance other than here or there. Not really that important. The bigger body in Chapter 5 was pretty interesting to see, but yeah, he just doesn't have that much importance. So yeah. Boogiebot? I kind of like him more than Braun, so B. I do think like the little medic that we see in Chapter 4 is pretty interesting. We haven't seen a bigger body yet, or if there ever will be one. It's kind of iffy, but if we do, I hope it will look pretty good. Who's next? Oh, Daisy. Let's do Daisy. I do kind of like the narrative of her being kind of a character that wasn't really finished, but is still used in their marketing. It's kind of like brings like a bigger, interesting thing that when you kind of think about it, like they still use things even though it's never really there. And I do like her in that regard, but the official toy is kind of iffy. I'll put her with Braun. Alright, who will be next? Let's knock out some smiling critters. Stella. Alright, Poppy Bear Hug. Yeah, I mean, B tier. I like her, like, little voice in Chapter 5. And, yeah, nothing much else to say. Kickin' Chicken. Yeah, B tier. The reason why is, yeah, he's pretty cool. I got him during the Huggy Vision Bad Toy Box scene, so that pulled on some heartstrings. Let's see here. Anyone else I want to do right now? Picky Pig. Honestly, my least favorite of all of them. Personally, mostly because we don't see him that much, so probably C tier for me personally. Again. And my cat's at my door, sorry. Alright, let me see. Let's do Bunzo. I do kind of like his little game during the, what's its face, color match during Mommy's whole episode, but we don't really see much of him in lore, narrative, or anything. Does kind of look stupid a bit, so C tier. There's very few characters that I actually consider D tier, so let's go Mrs. Delight. I do like her kind of weeping angel and design, and it's a very interesting like kind of thing where she does recognize the player, which is something I really find interesting. Sorry, my cat is at my door and my room is hot right now, so I'm just kind of trying not to get aggravated. Excuse me 1 second. Yeah, I'm gonna put her in B. Because I like her design, and I kind of like her, like, more horror. I also like how it's kind of like, in Chapter 3, we kind of, like, start seeing the more horror kind of thing, where we see the supply, or kind of supply, aka the orphans, of where they get like the bodies to make the rest of the toys. Sorry for that spoiler if you care. But yeah, like, it's a very interesting thing that when you think about it more deeply, it's very interesting that they start teaching the human body to kind of make scientists so they can experiment on more orphans. I very much like this design of the story when you think about it a lot more deeper. Alright, let's do someone from Chapter 4. Let's do the Nightmare Critters as a whole. The whole of the Nightmare Critters besides Baba, because Baba's right there. I put them in B, because there's some pretty good ones like Graby and that dragon one, I forgot their name, because honestly they're not that really important. You don't really hear or see anything of them except for Baba. That's why I put them separate. But yeah, not much in that sort of way that we really see. So yeah, that's kind of one of the main reasons why I put them here. Alright, let's do a big name. Mommy Longlegs. Now, this is an interesting character, and something that I do feel sympathetic is because we do understand how she was turned into a toy. We understand like her connection with Catnap, her connection with the orphan worker. I don't know her name, but yeah, the orphan worker that was kind of like very connected to her. And it's kind of like an interesting thing where it's kind of high B for me, where we do understand, like, yeah, honestly, she's just high B for me personally, mainly because we don't see her that much, and we don't really get much in terms of story with her besides, you know, just hating adults but loving the children and other toys to a point. And yeah, it's just a very interesting thing. Let's do Smiling Fred Catnap. I mean, it's Smiling Fred Catnap, so in terms of that, no, A. I just like it, you know? I like the creepy smiles of them, but no, here. Alright, now let's just do the bigger body of Dog Day and normal Dog Day. Normal Dog Day's here. It's just happy. Alright. Bigger body Dog Day would probably go here. I mean, it's one of the most kind of messed up versions of the Chapter 3 with him ripped in half of, like, smaller smiling critters inside of him, eating him alive from the inside out. God, these are children, man. You just get that every once in a while. But anyway, yeah, it's like an A tier. Same with like bigger body Catnap, with him like being kind of like turned like in an incredibly messed up way. Theodore just adoring and worshipping the prototype to a point where he just is just in an incredible way. Just his story is so interesting, like worshipping the prototype as a god, and it is such a good bit of like story. And his death, it makes it hit hard. You just want to take care of all of these people, and you know you can't. Alright, time to get it on a bit more positive note. Let's go Chum Chompkins. We don't really see much of him in Chapter 5. He's kind of just there. Like, I feel bad for him. Like a lot of these characters, like him being used by Gracie to calm misbehaving children down, and by putting them in his mouth. That is like a very fucked up thing when you think about it. a lot. But yeah, it is like, and we'll get to Gracie and Lily here in a few seconds, but yeah, it is. But we don't see much of him, actually. I'll put him just below Mommy, because I think I need a little bit more of him to get a better or worse opinion on him. Yeah, let's just finish the Smiling Critters. Crafty. I do like Hoppy a bit more because of like the VHS tape in Chapter 4. Kind of giving her a bit more character, and we don't get much of Bubba, so yeah, that's most of the all of the Smiling Friends. Let's just do Baba right now. Baba's B as well, right here, because we don't really get much of her. Like, we do get her when Gracie was getting, kidnapped in Chapter 5, but we need a bit more of any Baba to get anything, and I doubt we're gonna get much anymore because of the wrong side animals. Which, you know what, let's get right now. I do like the bit of lore where they're kind of like being like wrong side out. Like the prototype is doing that. That is a very interesting thing. Like he's officially like doing that. And it's just kind of like a very fucked up thing to turn someone's like fur and skin thing inside out. And he is just like, that is like a fucked up thing. And then when you have to take the batteries out of that one scene, that makes you like feel something like, are you putting them out of their misery? And just like makes you feel like you're, kind of like a bad guy, even though you're like just trying. And all of those guys just kind of have an interesting bit of lore. And it's interesting. That's one of the main reasons. Alright, let me see. Nope, PJ Pug, a pillar. I can take him or leave him, honestly. Same with Cat B. They just don't have much of anything. PJ's a bit further, though. Alright, Candy. Honestly, I like Candy Cat. Pretty neat. I like how Lily just has a decapitated version of Candy. And it's just like really kind of like proves that the mental decline of Lily Ludwig's. Alright, no, let's keep going. Let's just knock out, let's get Giblet out of here. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I see his heroic sacrifice coming a mile away, but he does have some character. So, probably middle B. I do like how he's also inside out, how he's also kind of like introduced in a way. I think we just need to see a bit more of him in order to like actually get a better opinion, because let's be honest, I'm no hero. He's gonna get a heroic sacrifice of some sort. How he calls us the Playtime Butcher, like kind of introducing like our kind of like infamy in the toy factory, just kind of very intriguing. Alright. You know what? Miss Gracie. I love Miss Gracie because, narratively speaking, yeah, it's just kind of like a way that you just brainwash children into believing that they're actual fucking toys is such a deranged thing. And the fact that this woman, like, does it with such a smile on her face in such a demon way that makes you genuinely hate her. Like, I hate this. I don't hate the actor. The actor is, like, very good in doing this. It is, like, A tier in terms of narrative. I think better than Dog Day, because it brings out that, like, trapped in your own mind kind of horror that I personally hate. And it's just like a very, very good thing. Alright, let's do Pianosaurus. Yeah. If you know what happens to him, you just wish that he got a bit more screen time, honestly. Just a chase scene would have been better, but yeah, honestly, the nightmare critters get more screen time than this guy, so yeah, just putting him here. Alright. Let's do Boxy. Very interesting design. Very good in terms of like the first experiment, bigger body experiment that actually succeeds. We don't actually see what happens to him post Hour of Joy, if there's even a him anymore. But yeah, very interesting. I liked Project Playtime, watching footage of it, haven't bought the game yet. Mostly because I think it's dead now, but hey, hopefully. Alright. Huggy's S tier. I mean, he's like, come on. Like, he's infamous. And like, seeing like him just constantly chasing after you and stuff out throughout Chapter 5 is such a very good thing. Like, because he's finally feeling bigger. I mean, he was a main threat throughout Chapter 5, and kind of him being with Kissy, kind of like finally having a like a kind of like character arc before being betrayed by this motherfucker is so good, personally, because again, it's a child. Like, we often kind of forget about this because, you know, they're children. All these toys, except these two, are essentially children that were turned into this and just been surviving a decade throughout the factory. But yeah, it's just very interesting to think about when you think about it. Alright. I mean, Kissy as well. Like, a genuinely, like, happy and kind toy. Like Huggy, that actually calms Huggy down, is such an interesting thing. I just like Kissy. I mean, she is just so sweet and, like, scared. Alright, let's do one of the executives. Stella Graber. I think I spelled her name wrong, but hey. She tortures kids. I don't care. Like, Stella is one of the more compassionate ones of, you know, people that kill kids for a living. But yeah, she is like... And I believe in the Chapter 5 ARG, it is hinted that she helped with the Hour of Joy, leading to so many people dying in the factory that it is just... If you want to help them, like, I understand, like, you know, not wanting to do anything to, like, you know, show the world because, you know, you did all of this, you were a part of all of this that led to so many people fucking dying. But then again, you could have just leaked something to the media and just kind of, you know, made it very public about what was going on. And I don't know what would have been better if, like, the toys were with the government or a fucking toy company that, you know, has a factory and has killed tons of innocent people just to hide everything. But yeah, like, I do think she could be better. I kind of just want to see where her story's going, so that's why she's an A tier, low A, but yeah. Let's do Yarnaby. I think he could have had a bit better of time, personally. Like, I understand he's, like, more of a dog, which, again, is incredibly fucked up considering how it's a child. And I feel so bad for him. That boy just deserved so much more. Like, at least everyone else, when you think about it, besides Boxy, still has like a human mind, still thinks, acts, but Yarnaby is just a dog. Like, they turned an innocent boy into a dog. That is horrifying in terms of, like, ethically. That is so sad. You know what? A tier. Like, narratively, he doesn't do much, but, like, when you think about it more deeply, yeah, he's a sad character when you think about it. Alright, let's do Doey. S tier. Like, I do like characters that have, like, multiple minds inside of their own brain. Kind of like, Twice from My Hero Academia. Kind of like that, like, split personality thing. Whether or not Doey, the 3 kids that are Doey, are aware of it, yeah, I don't really know, you know? It's just, man, you feel for Doey. He is, like, so sad, and yeah, none of those 3 children deserve to be put through that. And especially considering how, I believe, was it Jack? I want to say Jack was one of the kids basically in Doey's head, and I believe the angry, troubled kid, Kevin, accidentally killed Jack's parents. Whether that was on purpose or accident, I don't know, but yeah, that is incredibly sad. Like, Doey is a tragic figure, and the fact that in self-defense the player just has to kill him, it just hurts so much more because, in my theory, that the player doesn't really know anything except... We'll get to the player. You know what? Let's just do the player right now. The player, I think, is kind of... Because when you think about narratively, during Chapter 3, 4, and I believe 5 is when we get the most characterization for the player. That's a blank slate. Me, personally, I like that he's a blank slate because, one, I mean, yeah, we get to impersonate our opinion on him, but I believe in Chapter 3, during, like, the final, like, Poppy gas scene, I want to say, we kind of, like, I believe it hints that the player doesn't know about anything that happened at the factory in terms of the experiments. That's my theory, because why else would it say, why else would Poppy's, like, vision thing say, do you now understand what happened here? Because either one, she's saying that, the hour of joy and all that, or she's saying, now do you understand what the experiments were? And that was children that were turned into toys. Now that is, like, I believe that's where they're gonna go with it. That's where I think it would be best, because it's like the final innocent person that didn't know anything about any of the evil that these guys have done finally understands the evil that the company did, is something I kind of like, in terms of, like, the loss of innocence is like a horror thing that I do really like. And we can see that if they knew, would they really have PTSD of Huggy chasing them? Or would they have kind of PTSD of some more stuff? That's a very interesting kind of trope. Let's do the Doctor. He's S-tier character, because narratively, with his connection to Elliot Ludwig just being, like, this, like, very psychologically, or, mentally, emotionally cut off person, just kind of being, like, a pure monster even when he was human, and then just doing all these, like, messed up things to children just for the sake of science. It is very sad. It is very sad that a human can go to this level. Because I'm going to be honest, this entire factory is some Nazi level stuff when you think about it. Like, to the point where I'm not 100% sure even the Nazis would do it. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's messed up. And it's also because I kind of want him to be one of the people that leaves the factory with the player, if they do end up doing that. Because it would be kind of like the one person that doesn't deserve to live, lives. And it's just kind of like a thing where it's kind of like that. That would be very interesting to kind of see, like, maybe a potential redemption arc. I'm putting air quotes, you can't say. Later down the line, maybe if there's ever going to be chapter 2, or not chapter, Poppy Playtime 2, which there are other factories that are preparing, as we can see in chapter 5, that are preparing for experimentation over a decade before the game takes place. We do see that. Alright. Leaf Pierre. Let's do Leaf Pierre next. Honestly, A tier. He's like that. From what I think of him, like, again, credit to the voice actor, he really nails that I'm a corporate asshole very well. And it's just like kind of a very interesting thing. Because obviously, emotionally, he is very fucked up. Like, he is a cold man who has definitely killed a lot of people. He knows about the experiments. I mean, that alone, if you do nothing about the experiments happening, yeah, he sends Boxy Boo to kill multiple people that find out and try to save the children, the orphans, sorry. And yeah, he also just supports a lot of, like, the main stuff. He's the guy that brings stuff to the people. And it's kind of like that thing where, do you blame the guy that pulled the trigger, or do you blame the guy that sold him the gun? I blame the guy that sold him the gun because he knew he was going to pull the trigger. That is Leaf Pierre to me. That's what makes him extremely fucked up. Alright, let's do Lily next. She's my favorite. I'm sorry, she is just... You have to understand. Gracie turned into Lily. And hearing that tape, it kind of made me feel bad for Gracie, in a way. Well, bad for Lily, and kind of bad for Gracie. There has to be kind of like a line that you have to do in order for me to feel bad for someone fucked up like Gracie. Because that is an extremely interesting way. Again, credit to the voice actor. I'm gonna put her up in editing, her credit in editing, but like, that is an extremely interesting way because it makes you feel bad for someone like that. It makes you feel sad for someone that literally brainwashed children into thinking that they were toys by having them kind of break. It also kind of like makes you think, the fact that Lily is kind of innocent, like the only like kind of innocent person left in a way in all of the factory. Like, I do remember seeing like some indie animation, and this is what I talked about earlier. An independent animator kind of like characterizing Lily in a way that I really agree with, because Lily is the better version of Miss Gracie, you know, the live action lady right here. And that is like a very interesting thing. Because it makes you feel bad for Gracie, but bad for Gracie and Lily, because Lily arguably is the better version of Gracie, and Lily, whether she's aware of her being Gracie or not, doesn't understand why literally every other character hates her, and it kind of brings a bit more tragedy to it. And because of that, it's just, man, I love Lily Lovebreaks. It is just, she is such a good written character in that way. She is by far my favorite. And yeah, also I do see her being shipped with the player a lot, and we know the player's an adult. And yeah, I just support that ship because it's one of the ships that arguably has the least amount of questions ethically to it, and that's the only character I think we should ship the player with, because, you know, every other character was a child. I guess the doctor and the other, like, adults are fine. But yeah, like, Lily, she's my favorite. I like her because, honestly, I think out of everyone, she could genuinely be a good person if she's given the chance. I mean, I restarted, like, her section just so I could get more of her. That's how much I like her. Alright. Who's the last one? Mr. Prototype himself. I mean, come on. It's the Prototype. He started, I guess he didn't start, but he was like the first ever, like, toy that was turned into a child. Hold on a second. Sorry, just had to throw something. Anyway, yeah, he's the first, like, character, and this is one of the more tragic things, is because before he became an orphan and presumably got adopted by Elliot Ludwig, he was most likely abused with a hammer by his, I'm going to assume, his father. Like, the line, a hammer just like they did. And his original name was Oliver, or Ollie, and that's who we talked to in Chapter 4 and Chapter 3. And he's also a mimic, which is also a very good, like, trope in terms of, you know, and, like, a mimicking character is very good. Very, very good. And it's just him pretending to be his original self is such a good, like, kind of thing. And it's just, like, so interesting in terms of his psychology. And, like, how he kind of became evil. And kind of, like, how, because of how the adults treated him, is also incredibly sad as well. And it makes you feel so sad for him. And the fact that I theorize, my personal theory is that Elliot didn't truly love him, like Poppy, his biological daughter. And it kind of brings up, like, the thing where it's kind of like, I love you, but you don't love me anymore. And I also think he killed Elliot, too. Kind of hinted at with Lise Pierre's diary note, I think. I forgot. It's been a while since I read it, but yeah. And his design, too, being, like, kind of, like, the most creepy, like, on purpose creepy, but also, like, you can see where a design for an actual children's toy would be. And him using catnap when he eventually kills him, mommy, and, like, the arms of the two Huggies, kind of, like, providing, like, a bigger thing. And him, like, genuinely being so smart and turning certain scientists into the toys just so they could, just so they would suffer. Like, they turned him into suffering. And him kind of having, like, a weird cult around him, like, viewing him as a savior. Which, yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I would view him as a savior, too, if he, stopped me from being tortured, like, every day. And, yeah, it just brings such an interesting dynamic to him. And he is one of the best characters in the series, except Lily. She's the best. Fight me. But anyway, yeah, and him turning Gracie into Lily, and then psychologically turning Gracie into Lily by using Gracie's own thing is another interesting thing that I really like about him. Like, just wanting Gracie to suffer. And just kind of like, we don't really know what his plan is. I mean, he's essentially immortal. He does not need to eat. Him and Poppy don't need to eat. And him and Poppy with, like, the little rebellion thing with Doughy. It's a very, very good thing. And yeah, him just stabbing the player in the back during the final, like, chase scene, and him not killing the player, but we see him dump the player into, like, the regeneration gel stuff, saving the player's life in a way, or he intended the player to drown. Either way, if he did intend the player to drown in a painful death, that is interesting. But it's more intriguing for me personally if he intended for the player to live, if that is true. And yeah, that's the tier list. Very intriguing characters. Lily's